What is up, YouTube? My name is G3Iron, and today we are taking a look at our series on Magic Colors Abridged. Today we'll be focusing in on the color of impulse and chaos, the passionate color of emotion and impulsive irresponsibility. You can always check out the timestamps that are listed directly above my floating ethereal head, and of course you can get the hot link for those timestamps down below in the video description. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more videos just like this one. So what is red magic all about? Well, today we're going to take a look at red magic's core identity, its goals, its methods, its passions, its detractors, its allies, its enemies, its strengths, and its weaknesses. Then we're going to continue in a discussion on cultural icons that reflect red magic's identity, as well as take a look at some of the hallmark mechanics of red magic that make red red during a game of Magic the Gathering. Then we'll show off some standard legendary creatures and planeswalkers that are featured prominently presently in Standard League of Magic Arena, and then we will lastly wrap up with questions for discussion. So let's jump right into it. Red is all about passion. It is the way of passion, whereas white is the way of harmony, green is the way of nature, red is the way of passion. Red's goal is to live life freely, and to live freely means free from chains, free from responsibility, free from planning, free from anything that could restrict whatever it is that red wants to do in any given moment. To red, life is an adventure. Life is an open-ended, choose-your-own adventure where every single moment of every single day is an opportunity to carve your own destiny and make your own way and make your own experience throughout life. Red listens to their emotions, and so like that famous song, "Listen to Your Heart." Oh my gosh, that was my karaoke impression. I'm sorry, murder me later. But anyway, red would totally believe that song, "To Listen to Your Heart," because red is all about listening to your emotions in the moment. If you are feeling passionate, then you ought to do something passionate. If you're feeling angry, then you ought to go unleash that anger somewhere. If you are feeling sad, then you ought to weep and mourn passionately. Whatever it is that you are doing, you ought to do it to the fullest extent possible, because that's what red does. Red goes ham all the time. Red listens to their emotions on their grand adventure, living life freely. Red's methods to accomplish its goals rely upon instant responses to get instant results. I don't want to say red is impatient, but yeah, let's say red is impatient. Red wants results, and it wants them now. Red is all about getting results by playing creatures that are fast, creatures that will go for your face, and creatures that will instantly give you a reliable result towards your goal. Red wants to attack things in your way. So if there's an enemy creature in your way, red's going to attack it, smash it, kill it, crush it. If something stands in the way of red achieving its goal of living life freely, red will do anything and everything it possibly can to get that thing out of its way as quickly as possible. Thirdly, red will just blow stuff up. We'll talk about this more on later on in the video, but red is notorious. It is the color of going face. It is the color of blowing things up with massive explosive spells. It is the color of simply ignoring everything else that's going on in the world, because red just wants to kill the enemy player. That's what it's passionate about. That's what living freely is in a game of Magic for red, and so it does everything it possibly can to get instant results, being fast, quick, as well as free in its emotional discharge of smashing people in the face. Red also has got passions for specific things besides smashing things in the face. Well, sort of. Red has got some high energy emotions, and it's passionate about that. Red is never low-key. Red is never necessarily chill. Red is always on one of the emotional extremes. Whether that's being the most upset, whether that's being the most in control, whether that's being the most out in front, whether that's being the most controlling of other people's results or their own results. Red is all about high energy emotions, getting out in front of other things and sharing and exploring their own internal emotions externally, and really making other people experience their high energy emotions. Red is passionate about strength and about brute force. Red really doesn't necessarily want to sit around and craftily, scheme and come up with a way to sort of figure out how to out-clever their opponent. While you've got some folks that on the one hand might look down the edge of their noses and think, oh, yes, I need to study to solve this problem with a solution. No. That's blue. Red is saying, I'm going to smash it. What's in my way? A massive creature. I'm going to smash it. Okay, it's not dead yet. Smash it again. That's Red's approach. Red is passionately about smashing, about charging through something, and about getting to their objective as quickly as possible. Red is also spontaneous. So there's a lot of things in red magic that are spontaneous, that might be the result of randomization, that might have flexibility in the amount of mana that gets spent on something, having a plus X0 or a plus 0X sort of effect. Being spontaneous and being surprising are all things that red in its core identity are going to be hallmarked by, because red is spontaneous, because our emotions change. And so spontaneity is the spice of life, as it were, for red magic. Red magic also has some things that it despises, just as it has some things that it's passionate about. So red magic despises hierarchies and structures. So all of those things that maybe white magic wants to look at and say, oh, look, there's a thing here. Let's create a structure and a hierarchy and order and systems. Red hates that. Red goes, throw the rule book out. Let's burn it, burn the rule book, and let's burn the writer of the rule book alive, because we hate everything that could possibly constrain our life of living our emotions out freely. So red despises hierarchies and structures. Red also hates plans and convoluted strategy. This is why red hates blue so much. Blue is over there reading a book, and red is like, dude, I wanted to go to a rock concert. And blue is like, dude, I was just making a plan to go to the rock concert. And red magic is like, dude, you're always planning. Let's just go. Let's just do something. So red hates plans and convoluted strategy. Anything that gets in the way of immediate satisfaction of its desires is antithetical to red's entire way of thinking and living. Red's allies are green and black. It's got some overlapping themes as well as some overlapping ideologies that they share with both green and black. So both green and red can both appreciate acting first and thinking second. Green approaches this in a very natural, hierarchical, life cycle sort of approach, to where everything is a part of the great food chain and the great cycle of life and death. And so green believes that acting on instinct is actually very, very natural, and it appreciates that. Red thinks that acting on instinct is acting freely, free from constraint, free from having to think about something. Act first, think second. Green and red both can appreciate that. Green and red both respect brawn, strength, and brute force, whereas green's approach to this scenario is that green very much enjoys and loves massive big creatures and thinks that the bigger and the stronger ought to survive because that's the natural way of things. Red goes, no. The person who is the most passionate, the person who's the most strongest, the person who is able to come out on top of a fight, that's the person who deserves to come out on top of a fight because of their strength, because of their brute force, because of their passion, because of their freedom to exercise their ability to determine the outcome of a scenario versus another sort of creature or planeswalker's ability to overcome a scenario. So both green and red respect just brawn, brute strength. Black and red both appreciate listening to the self, their internal voice and their internal desires. So while black is constantly focused on their own goals and that everyone can live out individualistically however they so choose, red takes that and runs with it and goes, great, I want to be free. I want to be free all over the place, and I want to listen to whatever emotional desire and whimsical, evocative thing that I want to do, I'm going to do. Black and red can both appreciate listening to their own internal selves. Black and red both respect personal freedom rather than structural oversight. So black and red both will reject systems that try to hem them in. Black differentiates a little bit from this than red, but they can both respect freedom of choice over hierarchical structures and communal organizations. Both black and red want to live freely and individually. This is where they can both agree, and their goals and their methods overlap. Red's enemies are blue and white for some very, very good reasons. Blue is an enemy because it devalues instant impulses. Blue's all about thinking and planning and preemptively giving preemptive foresight to whatever it is that could be coming down the road. Red doesn't care about that. Red doesn't care about what's coming down the road. Red cares about being on the road in the moment and what is exactly happening immediately in front of them. Red doesn't care about what's happening down the next couple of mile markers. Red doesn't want a map to know about the next couple of mile markers. Red wants to experience and enjoy what's happening in the moment, while blue is off thinking about stuff that's going to happen in the future. Who cares? Red hates blue because it devalues instant impulses. Blue also upholds careful planning and patient methodological progress. Yeah, that's the antithesis of Red's vision for freedom. That is the absolute worst thing in terms of Red's desire for freedom. It is literally the opposite. It's the foil of Red's freedom to live in a moment, freedom to experience, and freedom to express emotion in whatever way it is that it manifests itself. Blue wants to carefully and methodically plan out and really consider the options and the outcomes and the risk-benefit analysis. Red goes, no, screw it. Let's do it now. Let's do it live. That is Red's approach, and that is why Red and Blue do not get along in any way, shape, or fashion. White is an enemy because it places structures everywhere it possibly can. So while Red says, I want freedom from structures, freedom from authority, freedom from hierarchy, White is like, oh, look, there's two people here. That means there's group dynamics, and that means we ought to have a hierarchy. One of you ought to be a boss. One of you ought to be an employee. We all ought to work together. Red hates that. Right? Because Red says, you're not respecting everybody's ability to be free. Let them make their own choices. Let them experience life as it is. Let them be free, as it were. Red hates White for all of its structural and communal junk that it tries to throw onto the world. Red also hates White because White makes rules that bind every emotive desire that Red could possibly experience. So when Red is getting really passionately angry about something, White is like, whoa, 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 let's rein that in. Let's bring it back to the group and see what the group has to say about it or what the group's leader has to say about it. Red's like, it doesn't matter what the group's leader has to say about it. I've got an axe. I'm angry. I'm going to go smash. These two colors are in absolute opposition to each other, White and Red, simply because one of them is trying to constantly restrain emotions and the other one is constantly trying to express those individualized emotions. What about Red's strengths? Well, Red does some things very, very well and some other things not so well. So first off, Red's strengths. Well, it excels at blowing things up. We've got featured here prominently two wonderful classic cards, Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Red loves to have the option of where it would like to blow things up because whatever it is that stands in the way, Red wants to deal with it. If you're in Red's way, it wants to blow you up. Red excels at blowing things up. Red also has a proclivity for acting quickly before an opponent has a chance to react. So this is why so many decks that manifest themselves in Magic the Gathering that are mono red decks are very, very fast decks. They seek to quickly get a resolution to the game in general and try to beat their opponent down very, very quickly, either by blowing them up or by throwing enough things that attack them that the game is simply over. Red is incredibly fast because it wants to get to its goal as quickly as possible. It's impatient because emotions change, and so you've got to fulfill your emotional desire as soon as it comes up because you don't know what the next emotional desire is going to be, so fulfill it now while you've got a chance. That is very much Red's strengths. Red has some weaknesses, though. Red has a lack of planning, and that often leads to incohesive end games or end goals. So when Red decks play out, they often you might often hear the term they run out of steam, or they simply lack oomph, or they don't feel like they really have a response to an opponent that can withstand their initial strong punch to start off a game. And this is because Red is all about getting what it wants as quickly as it can, which means as soon as Red runs out of passion, runs out of steam, or runs out of that emotion that it had that was motivating it to begin with, What do you have left except the next emotion, the next goal, and the next objective? Red, when it starts to run out of steam in its deck, it just goes, this game is boring me at this time. I'm gonna emotionally disengage from this game, and I'm gonna go focus on something else because this game is boring right now anyway. Red is all about winning, and so if it's not winning, it's bored. And if red is bored, it's gonna go do something else. It's going to leave the game, go start a new game where it can start winning again. If red's first passionate onslaught doesn't win the fight, then it's going to run out of steam. If that first knockout punch doesn't work, red's like, well, I didn't plan for anything else because I was just hoping that that punch would work. So this is why red decks so often run out of steam. They're planning, whatever planning goes on inside of red's mind is very, very short-sighted and just tries to reach the goal as quickly as it possibly can. This is why red decks run out of steam. Red has some iconic cultural influences that display some of these weaknesses, strengths, as well as goals, ideals, and methodologies. So, what are some of these cultural icons that can display and evoke the emotions and passions that red so accurately and vividly represent? So, let's dive into some of these. Some of these are going to be from Wizards of the Coast, and some of these are going to be from me. So the first couple are from Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast thinks that Homer Simpson represents chaos and impulse, that whatever it is that Homer wants, that's what it is that he's going to pursue in the moment, in the instant. Homer Simpson is, if he was in the game of Magic, would be placed in the color of red. Romeo and Juliet from Shakespeare would obviously be in red because they're simply pursuing whatever it is that emotionally they are feeling in the moment. Their families be damned, their futures be damned, their hopes of bringing peace and harmony to their land be damned, everything be damned except their love. The two of them. That's all that matters because their emotions are what dictate their living freely and their living out that freedom through their experienced passion. Third up is Wile E. Coyote. This one was a hilarious one. I was thinking about it, and at first I was like, wait, but he plans so much. I mean, he buys stuff from Acme. He really seems like he's a thinker. He doesn't seem like he's red. And then kind of the twist kind of caught me. Yes, he's a little bit of a thinker. Yes, he's a little bit of a planner, but he so much wants to catch Roadrunner that he doesn't ever really extend out to a plan B. It's almost like you can see Wile E. Coyote's several attempts as that, as several different one punches or initial punches where he never thinks, oh, well, if this first thing doesn't succeed, then here's my backup plan, or here's another objective, or here's another way in which I'll approach this problem. He just simply goes from plan to plan to plan to plan to plan, hoping to get his goal, his passionate goal of living freely, of catching that Roadrunner. He never succeeds, but he's constantly running after it. He's kind of the epitome of a red deck that constantly is running out of steam. Yikes. All right, so some personal suggestions down here below. A couple of these I came up with, and a couple of them I had some help from my kids and my wonderful wife, Mrs. Draconis. All right, so Donkey from Shrek. Yes, the famed Donkey. Donkey? Donkey! Donkey totally is the color red because he lives out he is the embodiment of living out of emotion. When he's frightened, he is going to run away. When he is enraged, it doesn't matter if there's a dragon staring him in the face. He's going to take it down. When he is nervous, he is going to stammer and stutter his way out of any situation that he can to possibly get away from it. When he is passionately pursuing something, it doesn't matter what stands in his way, he is going to immediately pursue that thing. When he is distracted by something, that something now becomes the new most important thing that's going on in all of life, regardless on whether or not he was on a quest or not. Donkey is totally a red character. Feel free to disagree down below in the comments, but I think Donkey's pretty dang good red color character. All right, Shelob. Shelob from Lord of the Rings. While you might think that Shelob would actually be more of the epitome of green because she's a creature and so therefore she's all about the way of nature, or maybe that she is black because she's all about herself and seeing her own goals exploited and expanded, and therefore she's a part of the Way of Black. No, I actually want to argue that Shelob is actually red because she is incredibly passionate. She has no overarching goal. She's not like Saruman or Sauron or even Gandalf or even Aragorn, these different figures throughout the lore of Lord of the Rings who have plans for achieving different things. Shelob doesn't care about plans. Shelob is hungry. Shelob wants to eat. Shelob sees something that she doesn't like. Shelob wants to kill it. Shelob wants to make more little Shelobs. Shelob will mate. Shelob does what Shelob wants to do because Shelob wants to do it. Shelob lives freely. She appreciates strength. She respects strength, both her own as well as her opponents. And she can not stand the idea of thinking and slowing down and patiently waiting out an opponent. No. She's going to play games with an opponent only to the end that she knows that she is going to achieve her ultimate satisfaction by crushing and eating her opponent. Shelob, I think, is a red character. But again, feel free to disagree with me down below. Cersei Lannister. So Cersei from A Song of Ice and Fire is a person who is ruled by, fueled by, and lives through her emotions. Everything and every decision that Cersei makes is because of her emotional status. If she's happy, great. You can interact with Cersei and maybe you'll get a positive reaction. If she's not happy, watch out because she may sick her children or her brother on you. Or, I don't know, she might start a war. Cersei Lannister is ruled by her emotions. Everything that she does is ruled by her emotions and by her passions. Whatever goal it is that she sets herself before, it's dictated by her passions, and then she therefore becomes incredibly devoted to accomplishing that goal. And anything that gets in her way or anything that overcomes her goal, she simply like brushes off. She's like, yeah, well, I didn't really want that thing anyway. It's kind of like the attitude of a red player when a red player loses an aggro matchup. The red player's like, all right, let's get down. I'm going to play all these cards really, really fast and beat you with aggro. Oh, that's not working? I didn't really want to play this game anyway. Totally Cersei Lannister, totally red. And lastly, Leroy Jenkins of WoW fame. So there is nothing more iconic that I could think of inside gaming. Maybe you can come up with a better one than that. But I think Leroy embodies everything that is about experiencing a moment and living in the present because it's time to go. So, let's just get it on and get going because Leroy Jenkins, at least he's got chicken. Oh, I couldn't think of anything better than that, but I think Leroy Jenkins pretty much nails red, that he just goes, I don't care about the group. I don't care about anybody else. I'm passionate about doing this raid. Here we go. Well, is red just a bunch of hot-headed hooligans that are just passionate about whatever it is they're passionate about, and they have no thought process, no will outside of their own emotions, and they can't experience anything beyond the next few minutes? Yeah, pretty much that's red. Here are some words from Mark Rosewater, one of the lead designers at Wizards of the Coast. Red doesn't like being frustrated or bored. The first happens when someone tries to inform Red that it cannot do what it wants to do. Red's default reaction is just to do it anyway. But if something tries to stop Red, Red will figure out how to remove the obstacle in its way. Red likes to see itself as an unstoppable force that will just keep taking action until it gets what it wants. Red's other pet peeve is when nothing is happening. Red is a color of action, so anything leading to inaction drives Red crazy. Red has no patience nor long-term plan, so the last thing it wants to do is not do anything. Red would much rather fail miserably than sit back and never try. Mark Rosewater from 2015 in his article Seeing Red Revisited, and that is of course linked down below in the video description. So what are some of the hallmark mechanics of red magic throughout the course and history of Magic? Well, one of them is drawing and discarding cards. Red, uniquely, unlike other colors throughout Magic, almost everybody's got some sort of draw mechanic, and Red's approach to this is that they will draw cards and then have to discard cards. So making a choice, okay, what is it that you want now? This very much evokes personal, in-the-moment choices that you can make. What was it that you wanted before you drew a card? Well, you wanted to draw cards. Okay, now that you've drawn cards, you've got different cards in your hand, what is it that you want to keep? Because you're going to have to discard something. So your goals and your emotions and kind of the feeling of a game shifts even as you draw and discard cards throughout Red Magic. I really love that mechanic, and I totally think that it fits with Red's theme the more I've thought about it over the last couple of weeks. Combat abilities. So red, in terms of combat abilities, is second only to white in the number of combat abilities, combat tricks, and creatures with combat abilities on them. And it is a hallmark of red to have combat abilities included in on their cards. And this makes a whole lot of sense. When you heard me say earlier, I'm angry, I've got an axe, and I want to go smash, that's very much a red thing to do. And so it needs to go smash, and it needs to be equipped to go do that. Not because it's got some elongated strategic advantage and plan that it's been planning for centuries to try and overcome the enemy. No, red has an axe. It wants to make the axe bigger because the thing it needs to take down is bigger. So it grabs a second axe and it's like, ha, now I've got two axes. Let's go kill it, right? So combat abilities are very, very much within line of the passions and the flavor of the red color. Haste. Haste is an ability that allows you to attack the turn that creatures enters play. This totally goes in line with red. Red wants to smash your face. It wants to smash your face now. Why would I have to wait a turn because of summoning sickness? Just play creature, smash face. This totally makes sense to red. Fourth is the destruction of artifacts and lands. Artifacts are things that really like planning and really reward players for planning ahead. Red doesn't like this. Red also doesn't like lands because you have lands. I don't have lands. You flooded out. I didn't. You have a lot of really cool, unique lands that are going to help you in your long-term scheming. I don't. I just have mountains. Blow up your lands. This is very much Red's line of thinking. Red actually has some ramp. So short-term boosts to mana gains. It's a little bit different and a little bit similar to green in some ways. So it's similar to green in that both green and red can give themselves additional or faster sources of magic. It's a little bit different because red ramp often has a cost associated with it or is a temporary benefit only. So where green is constantly simply has that kind of feel to it, like something is growing and something is expanding in a very natural way, and that the mana pool of a player is simply growing out of control. Very similar to, nature and growth. Red goes, no, I want more mana, and I want to use that mana now because I want to blow you up now. So a lot of the times, red has short-term boosts to mana gains. Red loves coin flips because red loves random outcomes. Red would totally be the poker player that just goes, okay, I'm just going to go all in on this because if I win this hand, I win all of the money, and that's that. Like, I won all of the money anyway, so why should I methodically and slowly play out a bunch of hands in order to win all of this money? Why not just go all in and win all of this money now? Why not satisfy my desire now? So coin flips are a version of that. Oftentimes cards that involve coin flips are very, very broken if the coin flips continue to go your way. And so red is very, very happy with this. And it's exciting. It's spontaneous. It's allowing freedom to rule as opposed to rigid planning. Ow, that's so boring. Spontaneity is a coin flip as opposed to, oh, I methodically planned out for 6 turns that this thing would pay off. No. Give me coin flips, at least if you're red. That's what you're saying. Seventh is First Strike. First Strike is a wonderful combat ability that deals damage first in combat. So oftentimes red is so impatient when it comes to combat that not only can it not wait to deal damage to your face, it simply wants to deal damage first. It gets to go first because it's so impatient to deal damage. And so First Strike is a perfect embodiment of this impatient attitude when it comes to dealing damage during combat. Menace. Menace is also an interesting mechanic that requires a creature to be blocked by 2 or more creatures, and this really embodies a lot of what red is all about in being aggressive and being emotive, of being provocative in its aggressiveness. So by demanding that multiple things block you, red often comes onto the field of play with a creature that's got menace and simply goes, okay, if you wanted to 1v1 duel me, you're not going to win because I'm red and I want to hit your face, and just one of you isn't going to stop me from doing that. So menace really embodies that whole aspect of red's aggression very, very well. Red also features a lot of creatures with trample, which pushes through extra damage from a creature or any remaining damage onto the face of the other player. So remember, red wants to win the game as quickly as possible because that's its motive. It wants to get to its goal as quickly as possible. It's impatient. It wants to fulfill its emotional desire. And trample lets it do that in a much, much faster way. There's a lot of creatures in red that might have trample and they have just a bunch of damage but not enough health. And that's because red's like, that's okay. I don't care about this creature. If this creature lives or dies, I just want to push damage on through. And so trample on high damaging creatures is very much in theme with the red, the whole red core identity. And of course, red has got iconic cards like the two that have been floating here ethereally on your screen, Skewer the Critics and Banefire, because red, amongst every other color, has the ability to do damage directly at an opponent. Red can do this better than anybody. It is the classic lightning bolt. It is the classic fireball. It's the classic deal 3 damage to your opponent's face and then turn. End of turn. Oh, what are you doing on your next turn? Dealing another 3 damage to your face. What are you doing next turn? The same thing if I draw another card that lets me do more damage to your face. It's very, very classic, very, very iconic part of Magic history and Magic flavor to the color of red, because red is all about achieving its goals, and the goal of any Magic game is to win, and so red wants to do that as quickly as possible. So red's got several different heroes. These are all heroes that are available in Magic Standard presently at time of video. In Magic Arena, we've got Captain Lannery Storm, the legendary human pirate; Chandra, the bold pyromancer, legendary planewalker; Itali, the primal storm. He is an elder dinosaur that is absolutely terrifying when you play against him. There's Jayla Ballard, who is an awesome legendary planewalker and has got a great backstory as well. If I ever do videos on lore, I think I might do one on Jayla. We've also got Sarkhan the Dragon Soul. He is a legendary planeswalker. And then we've got Sarkhan Fireblood. Sarkhan is all about dragons. And of course, red is also going to be all about dragons, because dragons are pretty passionate creatures when you think about it. They're all about hoarding gold for themselves and taking things for themselves. And if somebody else has something that they want, what do? They go take it. That is what dragons oftentimes are all about. And so it totally makes sense that there would be planeswalkers in red that interact with dragons. There's Squee the Immortal, which he is the epitome of the little aggressive thing that would not die and keeps coming back. His text says, you may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile. So whenever an opponent goes to deal with Squee, Squee's like, no, I'm a 2/1 and I'm coming back at you. Deal with it. You've also got Valduk, the Keeper of the Flame, a legendary human shaman who gets larger and summons a bunch of stuff to attack that have haste. The more times you empower him and equip him with stuff, it totally makes sense. And it just, I want to say it reeks, but it oozes. It's the embodiment of passion unleashed, is Valduk. He's not necessarily a great card. There's not a whole lot of decks that are built around him. He's not necessarily competitive, but I think in terms of the red flavor, he summons elementals, which of course are passionate embodiments of magic in their base elemental form that's been given life. And he summons them with haste. And of course, he's growing stronger and stronger and gets stronger and stronger himself as he's attacking. Like, yeah, there's just a lot about Valduk that's really, really fun. And when it comes to, of course, those elementals at the end of step, they all die because you either won the game or they serve no purpose. Like, why would you keep those elementals around for defense? That's too much planning. Just summon more elementals and go face. Anyway, he's pretty much the embodiment of red. I love it. All right, so what appeals to you about red magic? This is the portion of our G3 Magic Abridged video where we shout it out to you. Leave us a comment down below and let us know what your thoughts and what your feelings are. What does it feel like to play red? When you play mono red in a game of Magic, what does that feel like to you? What are your motives when you're going into a game? Do you just want to win a whole bunch and really, really fast? What does it feel like to actually play red? What does it feel like when you lightning bolt an opponent, when you top deck a lightning bolt an opponent and they had 3 HP remaining and you finish them off? What does it feel like when you've been sitting on a whole bunch of red magic and you can Banefire an opponent and it's uncounterable and you just blow up? What does that feel like when you're playing a red deck that accomplishes its goal? What tilts you playing against red magic? When you are playing a game of Magic and you see somebody drop down a turn 1 mountain, what tilts you? What makes you go, oh gosh, not this again? Oh no, why are they doing this? Oh, red. What is it that you just can't stand about red? What tilts you? And then also, who do you see as iconic figures representing red magic's values? What can you come up with? I know I came up with a few in our video today, but I'm sure you guys can better that. I'm sure some of you are going to disagree with it, but let us know down in the comments, what are some iconic figures representing red magic's values? Leave a comment down below and join the discussion. I'm so glad and so thankful to all of you for watching. And as always, here are the citations for today's video. Thanks to all of our Patreon supporters and subscribers, a part of the G3 fam. And until next time, I hope that your games of Magic go well and that you don't tilt playing against any red magic today on the ladder, but instead you can enjoy your passionate game of going face playing red yourself.